Ivy. I'm your host and creator of livzenastrology. And I am so grateful and blessed to be here with you today. Be more, not blessed. I am fortified and so grateful to be here with this amazing inventor, artist, high-level being. Let me just read to you what this presence is that's been invited in for this experience today, who is Hannah Spence. She is a futurist and upcoming author. She's got a passion for facilitating collaboration among scientific-minded folks who are ready to usher in a new age of technological advancement, one which is harmonized and parallel to an equivalent evolution of human consciousness. Gifted with paranormal abilities from a very young age, her visions of the future have guided her on a beautiful path of facilitating increased abundance, health, and purpose for all humans on Earth. And I am so grateful. Thank you, Hannah, for saying yes to this experience and being here in this now moment with me. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for holding space for us to have this conversation and just speaking truth as it wants to come in and be shared. And we are vessels for truth, which is light, which is love. And there's never been a better time for us to all just be present in the moment from here on out as vessels for truth. And then we get to share collectively in these dreams. And anyone watching this now, anyone who watches this in the future, is tapping into this moment here with Ella and I. That's why I was getting sort of butterflies in my stomach in advance, because I was feeling all the consciousness that, you know, conscious souls that are watching this in this now moment, which is past, present, future. It's all now. And just by hearing us speak of these grand visions, people see it in their mind's eye and they say, that sounds amazing. I want to live in a world that has that. And that powers these projects, big projects, like a battery. Intention it's a tool to power batteries of our imagination of what we want to create, what we want to experience. So I'm super grateful to have the opportunity to help us remember that inner child, delight in topics like science and what, you know, new discoveries are opening up for humanity. And I am like a kid in a candy shop when it comes to that stuff.
Speaking of kids in a candy shop, I got to go let my child in. So
right,
let's go ahead. And when I get back, we're going to start telling our story in this epic journey that you and I had together. Let me go let my dog Tanner in. He always is part of the show on this level. So funny. Sacred pause. Okay. This is real life, everybody. That's my dog Tanner. I was holding space. So I just wanted to just give a little bit of frame of reference of why we've been having this talk today with Hannah being on an astrology show and just really getting to know this being. We had this epic journey. We're cohabitating this beautiful house through an amazing series of circumstances. And I feel like that's going to be another podcast for another day, but there's just been so much revealed. She came in time right for this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that we basically journey together and have been on this journey together as we've been cohabitating this space, really commanding this new way of living, embodying this wellness practice of being the wellness, right? Being the change, embodying all of our values and things that we've come to experience as far as recoding the money system and recoding health and wellness, and then how it's all tied to spirituality. And of course, you know, with me being an astrologer, just bringing in that poetry and artistry of, oh, there's further explanation of how the science and spirit meets. And it is about numbers, and it is about geometry, and it is about these incredible technologies that we have inside of us. And we're just remembering that we are the technology. And so, you know, artisans and futurists and inventors like yourself, and those of you watching, perhaps if you are finding these technologies coming online for you, there's a reason you're here with this channel, this now moment today, because there is a grassroots movement to bring in these technologies to allow these perhaps hidden technologies that can help humanity in a huge way to finally be released. And we're taking beings like yourself, Hannah, and the physicists you work with, the spiritually minded physicists that you're working with that are melding together, coming together, are starting to share, look, these technologies work, they harmonize the body. We need a better healthcare system, a well-care system, and we have it, right? So we're pulling our resources, our minds, our hearts together, and we're allowing these technologies to be revealed and to shared publicly for everybody, because this is very age in Aquarius and very of that Jupiter Uranus conjunction, such a signifier for that energy. So I would really like to first, Hannah, if you can tell us, a bit about yourself. Who are you? What got you here into this now time moment, and what are you bringing to the table? And I know this is very layered and we have about an hour to dive deep into this, but if you can give our viewers just a little bit of who you are and what's led you to this now, and what you're bringing to the table for humanity. And I'm going to give you some here.
Sounds great. Yeah, so my name is Hannah Elliott Spence, and I was born in a small town in Maine. I was born at home, grew up in nature, not a lot of other kids around other than my brother and sister, but had a really idyllic childhood in nature. And then progressively my life became more urban. My journey has been from nature to urban environments, and then wanting to really come back to nature to connect to the healing energies of the earth, really. And that's part of what we'll touch on today a little bit. But so, through the course of my career, living in places like North Carolina, working for a surgical company, surgical device manufacturer, traveling the world, meeting all these people from different cultures, going to trade shows, seeing how American-made products are really, have a niche overseas, and learning international trade, import, export, whole host of skills, and getting excited about technology and teaching others technology and learning the why for the features. And wow, I'm really good at explaining things to people, taking more advanced concepts, and how do we work with the mind of a student in general, because the topic was kind of a boring topic. So anyway, I became a teacher in that process, and I love all these different cultures. I speak French, Spanish, and Greek. I'm an artist. I've been an artist my whole life. 3 years ago, I had an experience come back, and that really shifted. A lot of people were going through a lot of transitions during that time, and I actually accidentally hypnotized myself in an event from when I was 6 came back. So kind of backing up to the early years, and how did I come to realize, became interested in ESP, and I knew I had these paranormal abilities from a young age and would study the topic. But prior, around 6, there was an experience that only came to my conscious awareness 3 years ago, or actually almost 4 years ago now. And that was the experience of being taken aboard a ship with Grays. And I had written a pre-birth contract to give my eggs to help them with their genetic healing. And so when this memory came back almost 4 years ago now, it really shifted my present. It shook up every aspect of my life. It was a new reality to where all of these things are very real. I started
Can we take a pause for there real quick? How did your friends and family feel about that part when you shared that? Because that's a very jarring experience to have brought up in your memories. And was there ever a part of you that maybe didn't believe it or thought you were making it up? Like, how did you know? It was inevitably, if people that are watching that maybe are starting to have these memories, how did you know?
Yes. So when the memory came back, my sister actually had a hypnosis session, and we were listening to hers. That's how it happened accidentally. And I said, I'll just sit and meditate and listen to this woman's beautiful, calming voice. But from when her voice ended to when my sister's voice started, the memory played back like a movie, like watching a movie completely. And it ended right when my sister's voice started. So it had been compressed to the right length of time. And there were things like that that showed this was no accident. Months before, I'd had a flash of seeing myself on, like a surgical table as a young child and being out of my body looking down. And I thought, why did I just see that in my head? It was kind of thought to myself, it was a subconscious conversation that I didn't remember having until the full memory came back. Because basically what happened was my subconscious was testing myself. Or, it was, I saw that flash. And based on, when I saw that flash, I thought, was I abducted? Why did I see that? Well, if I was, I think I would want to know. I think I could learn to be okay with it. And I think I would want to know. And that would be a good thing for my life. And that was months before. So I had prepared myself in that way. I feel we're writing the path according to where we know we're at in terms of being able to know the truth about certain things. And that is also the age, 35 to 40 is the age when memory wiping technology wears off. So basically by this memory coming back, I started to get really interested in the topic. I had already been interested in the topic ahead of time. And I think that was part of me showing myself I was ready to wake up. I just got super into the topic. And then part of the reason I got super into the topic, and this is kind of it's a parallel thread in a lot of ways. I did, when I was 19, have an experience where I saw a human man shapeshift into a reptilian in front of my eyes and then go back to being human.
Okay, can we talk about that a little bit? What did that do? So you've been activated, you've been kind of on this path, and then you've had these events where it's like, yes, this is real.
So I was in a time period in my life, I was learning a lot about health and nutrition. I got really into meditation and wellness and studying all these things really extensively. Very pure, in my lifestyle, all aspects, and living out in the country. And I started to get interested in metaphysical topics, and I'd reached out to a man, and he gave me a brief overview that really opened up my crown chakra, because talking about things like spirit guides and your support group and all the people responsible for you being here, and putting energy into clearing the property and protecting it and harmonizing with all the energies and all these sorts of topics of understanding the way things really work on a higher level. That was right at the time when the event happened of, it was again where he said he would channel my spirit guides, because I'd started to talk about this stuff, and we were both very young and inexperienced, and I'm not sure why, but he turned into it. I was meditating, I opened my eyes, jumped back, saw what I knew was an alien and was a lizard type alien, and I jumped back. And it ended. And then when I talked to the metaphysical advisor, he said, whatever you're working with is not good, So however that happened, I don't have an explanation for what went on, but that memory kind of got tucked in a drawer because I didn't know what to do with the experience at the time. And I just took off with the metaphysical studies and did that seriously for about a year or two. And so then so I had started to I watched a documentary about extraterrestrials. Someone drew a reptilian, and I said, oh, my jaw dropped, because when it happened to me, that was, would have been around 2001, I think. The internet didn't exist the way it did now. So I said, oh my gosh, other people know what that is, and they've seen it too. Oh my gosh. And then I just was scouring the web to try to find anything I could, but it was really hard with Google. But I would find some little thread, whatever little scraps I could find. I would then, anyone talking about it, I would then go into them. And Laura Eisenhower was one of the people that I found. And I found her content, and it opened me up to the whole realm. So sort of setting the stage for myself for the memory to come back. But when it fully came back and I was integrating it, and all these abilities really started to come back at that point, or just to intensify. And then my friends, to answer your earlier question, they were like deer in the headlights. They didn't really know how to support me. It really did shift my world upside down. My marriage of 15 years ended because my husband just didn't know how to support me in it, and it would trigger him. The topic triggered him. My family would just look at me with these eyes wide open, and I thought, gosh, they're probably considering whether I lost my mind and losing my mind. And it did have this feeling of fantasy. It was a dreamlike. The memory for a while had this dreamlike quality to it. And I was like, am I making this up? But then there's other things, like I have a mark on my abdomen that I confirmed when my parents was not there when I was born. And I remember just one day, oh, look, it's a new mark on my body. And that must be what people call a birthmark that just emerged. And And during that experience, though, because I came into it with saying, well, if this, I think I could be okay with it. I think I would want to know, having had that perspective months before. When it did come back and my family and partner didn't know how to support me, I said, okay, I need to figure this out on my own. I need to go be around people that this has happened. They've lived this too. And that's part of their story too. And they're going to know I'm not crazy. I went to an event that year and it was amazing. I got introduced to Sasquatch at that event. And I didn't know that phenomenon was real, but I knew aliens were real. And then all these people, I was like, well, that's probably real too. And heard it throughout the night while we were seeing craft at a place that is known for that energy. And we're seeing these orange orbs light up across the field in the tree. And that's another phenomena that's connected with Sasquatch. And so
you're gonna have to totally come back on the podcast, and we're just gonna have to dedicate a whole podcast just on
right. That's a whole topic in and of itself. For sure.
That's
I've had many experiences since then and introduced other people to that energy. But yeah, so but having worked in sort of my matrix career in the surgical medical industry, traveled around the world presenting to all these executives and even members of the military, and going to trade shows and giving presentations, I knew I had a technical mind. So when the memory came back and I started to get these other visions of being in a craft that I designed that is like the arm of a star, and started drawing that. And I was like, is this past, future? And it doesn't really matter because it is all now. But that led me on a whole other trajectory of saying, gosh, I feel like I design spacecraft, and I fly craft, and I like to fly fast, and they're small, and they fit together in these configurations like the arm of a star. And you can, depending on how many craft you could have 2 arms of the star, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the star can become multidimensional. It can become more of a globe type shape with many arms of the star, and then it's a battle formation. So just tapping into all these visions of being a fighter pilot fighting reptilians, and sort of being like, where is this coming from? What aspect of but by then I had already tapped into topics like the secret space program, which I very much feel like I am a part of, was a part of, am now, was in the past, will be in the future. It's, we're stepping into this future, and then it is all happening now. Time is just rotation, relative rotation. So, during this process, I've really learned a lot about a lot of very futuristic technologies like teleportation and time travel and anti-gravity craft. These technologies that are very real. It's hard for a lot of humans maybe to wrap their minds around it, but I feel we are having these conversations. We're paving the way for everyone to start getting used to what has been around for a while, just been out of our reach. But what's shifting now is that things are finally in our reach. And it might be a good time to segue into the Planck Fair formula, is there more about my background that you think would be relevant, or do you want to just go into straight up the excitement of this new science?
Well, I would say that, and especially, I love, thank you for sharing your background and introducing our audience to a little bit of where now you're channeling this information, because again, we just had this epic meetup, and it's been on kind of, I would say, retreat mode since the conjunction of April 20th. But I'd like to invite you to share with the audience here what technologies are coming online. Like, what are you remembering?
Yep.
What aspect of self is ready to share? Like, look, okay, we're ready to be better. We're ready to have these technologies released within us.
Nice.
We're ready to get these grassroots movements.
Yep.
So you can go into a little bit about what you've already got going. Absolutely. And then what's coming up.
Absolutely.
Really great.
That's what I get super excited about. So I consider myself a visionary artist. I feel like I can see structures of the future. I can sit down and literally draw what I'm seeing, and by drawing, it allows the information to come through me, and really literally tapping into future points which are now, but to us they look like the future, and seeing what wants to come into creation on this planet. And so I had days where I was drawing these scaffolding structures, and I was seeing train systems, because I said, well, how are we going to get humans? Okay, say we come up with this anti-gravity technology where people can have flying cars, spaceships, however you want to call it, whatever you want to call it, starship, your own personal starship to fly over to your family's house, right? And, my stepmom asked the question, well, how are you going to manage that? Wouldn't it be sort of chaotic, everyone flying around? And it did sort of spark my creativity when people ask questions. It's showing where they're having a roadblock of seeing it. And I said, well, of course, you're going to have lanes, right? And then I thought, that's a lot for people to be able to just go from having a car to a spacecraft, right? It's all of a sudden available. So I saw this scaffolding that would be like the tube that anti-gravity craft could travel in, sort of like these little pods that are connected to one another, traveling along the sky, sort of like the Eiffel Tower. You have these tubes coming. And so this formula I'm going to speak about, it unlocks gravity for us. And because of that, we're now poised to be able to generate gravity waves. When you generate a gravity wave, it's pushing off from the Earth in the opposite direction that Earth's gravity is pulling us down. So I saw how, people might be a little nervous to step in a vehicle like that. So what if we had it like a train and it felt secured to the Earth, felt grounded, connected down, rooted down on this planet? And you're just stepping into a train car. But as the train travels along, the ship itself has the ability to create gravity wave in the ship. So while you're in your little car, everything is going to be falling to the ground. You can have your cup of tea, just like a train car. But if you look out the window, you're going to see the Earth shift from the horizon being like this to gradually being like this as the person travels up. So it's a seamless experience. And then it brings them to upper Earth station platforms. And I envisioned 3, depending on where the person was at, of their ability to really feel like they were in space. And by having that, by people feeling connected to the Earth and safe because of the scaffolding system, and they're just riding a train to an upper Earth station, they can see the planet and really, really appreciate it by having somewhat of a distance from the planet, but knowing they're connected to it. They can just see, wow, this is so beautiful. Look at that. Look over there. Sort of like the Eiffel Tower, but higher. So I started to envision this. And I started to really just, if I could build anything. And I was like, this is amazing. We really need this. Who wants to start building this with me? So I already spent a lot of time designing spacecraft and thinking about it and really yearning to meet people that wanted to build the same kind of technology and work with that. So I said, what kind of material? I'm like, it needs to be really, really light and really, really strong. I started to envision the color, texture, shape, feel, dark material, just again, something to be super strong, super light. And, a few months later, I happened to, learn about a technology that is in the works of coming into fruition that is very much what I saw. It was a few months later. So by tapping into our inner vision and seeing what brings us joy, what's the lifestyle we want to live, what do we want to be involved in our purpose, and it can be multifaceted. I consider myself an artist. I love to paint. I do colored pencil artwork, and that's been a lot of my visioning has come through with the colored pencil artwork and just painting beautiful landscapes in a pixelated form, because that's how I see our reality, is this sea of rainbow pixels. When I was younger, I would close my eyes at night and I would say, I'm not seeing dark or black, I'm just seeing rainbow pixels. But, one of the conversations you and I have been fortunate to have, Ella, is about how we are all source consciousness, and we are it's this love. And when I was 16 or 17, I had what people would call a Kundalini activation, doing yoga and meditating. I stopped eating factory farm meat and cared more about my health and started doing all these practices and had.
You were 16, Hannah, when you started this?
Yeah, I was 16 and I really got interested in health and taught myself yoga from a book and started to meditate and would go into nature on my own and really care about my well-being, and just this vitality, this life force started to activate me further. And I had an experience where everything was love. Everything was just one pure consciousness. And I said to myself, gosh, it's not just a cliche that people say. It really is. Everything really is love. And that was an early morning meditation experience when I was a junior in high school. The rest of the day, I was flying so high. Every stroke of tennis after school was perfect. During the day when I was at school, I was hearing the teacher, reading something, and writing all simultaneously. It was like I knew I was operating at another level, and I knew I had just had this most incredible experience. So there was obvious correlation to this higher level of functioning. And so that, this concept that everything is love, everything is perfect, it's all just one larger consciousness. And then because when everything's perfect infinitely and everything's love infinitely, it gets a little boring. Where's the story? Where's the drama? Where's, the hero and the villain? And, we crave that as pure consciousness. So all these discussions we've been having about moving from this place where all is self, all is one. So if we see something in the world and that really strikes a nerve and there's a charge to it, like you say, we can pause and say, well, I'm creating this for myself. So what is there to learn? In what way have I done this, what I'm receiving? It's coming back to me, so I'm generating it somehow. The universe, what we put out is what we get back. And there are physics formulas behind the holographic universe theory. It's something that physicists have, documented as a real theory with real science behind it. So
Hannah, just going back really quick to we're creating our reality.
Yes.
So then I hear the questions of, well, why would we create war? Why would we create these horrendous things happening on the planet right now with people, with, the slavery and human trafficking and all these, horrendous things.
Right.
When people have a hard time wrapping, well, if all is self and I'm creating that, what can these technologies that you've created do to shift that consciousness? Because I feel like that's a driver. That's what all of humanity is sort of rectifying. Like, okay, yeah, I'll believe this oneness thing. It sounds all good, kumbaya, but
sure,
there's still people killing each other, and there's still these imbalances. So can you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the unification I feel like that we're encountering is, people have that frame of mind. And the way I like to look at it is if we're 90% focused on solutions and 10%, we only allow ourselves to see the dark at 10%. We spend 10% of our time thinking about it, talking about it, focusing on it, only in support of solutions that are going to turn that situation right side up. So one of the things you and I were talking about is this amazing material that I found out, people are working on this. I saw it, but it's a real thing that, I hope to support to come into being. And anyone just hearing this is helping it become a reality. That type of material would be very, suitable for lots of warlike practices. But again, if we're utilizing it only as self-defense, and we are very careful about who we allow to access that technology because they need to agree that we're focused on peaceful purposes. And maybe 10% of the technology can be focused on self-defense of our planet, knowing that if we're going to be the ones in control of our planet, which we have an ability, a right to step up as the guardians of this planet, knowing that the planetary consciousness is way more powerful than ours. And we're more like, try to be good stewards with the awareness that the planet will then nourish us equally as we're nourishing our planet, because we're sort of nested within this larger consciousness together with a bunch of other conscious beings. So again, back to the thought, the concept of war and violence. Now, everyone here is we're writing our own path. So if a person wants to write a story where they think a lot about things like war and violence, they have 100% free will right to do that. But that is the world that they will be living in. And so one of the shifts for me was I needed to put that stuff down. I really avoid a lot of media. I focus on creating content, writing, putting videos out there to help educate people on these physics topics. And then I shift my reality of focusing mostly on solutions. I'm doing the no-till farming method here at the land, planting fruit trees. I've been on a papaya fast for about 5 days now, eating only papaya because it's abundant, it's ripe. And, wanting to really receive abundance on all levels beyond just the monetary form, going through this sort of purification with the papaya, and it's the fruits of my labor coming back directly from the earth in a closed loop cycle. So this type of empowerment, whether people have chickens with eggs or, you know, however they're producing their own food, making our own clothes. We start making the better. I could not have bought this papaya in the store, you know, and I planted it with my own bare hands. I dug the hole and, you know, watered it for months and made sure it was always getting water. And then, so the more we're tapping into this, what's right here already available for us to utilize as raw materials to generate the more evolved forms of our clothes, our food, our water, our living space, shifting everything to nourish life force. And we have the codes now to do that because we found the incredible genius inventor Dan Winter found the solution of the Planck fire formula. And what that does is allows us to calculate the frequencies that nourish human life. And we can do it with sound, we can do it with light, we can test fabrics and materials to see, because this is, these are known constants in physics. It's sort of looking at everything as electrical charge. And as Ella, like as you and I have been talking about, we have the 0 point where all is one, all is love. And then a layer up from as that consciousness is, I want to create, I want to experience something, I want to pretend a tree is real, I want to pretend this thing about human being, the body, and pretend all this is real so I can have fun and entertain myself infinitely. And so how am I going to go about doing that? Well, I'm going to create a fundamental shape, right? I'm going to have a fundamental shape of a cube with a sphere inside of a cube, and I'm going to have this fundamental movement of vortexing action. And between this fundamental shape and this fundamental movement, I can create space and time, the illusion of space and time, to imagine that there's something like time, and this happened, and then this happened, so I can enjoy my creation like I'm watching a movie and forget that I'm the one writing it. So speaking from this point of view of source creator and creating this basic structure and saying, well, okay, the first one's going to be Planck level, Planck width, length, and height. Planck is
what is Planck for those that are not familiar with that word?
Max Planck was a scientist who discovered the fundamental smallest units of space and time and energy, and there's at least a fourth, there's numerous Planck constants. But we look at Planck length as the tiniest unit of measurement in the universe. We look at Planck time as the tiniest unit of measurement, tiniest unit of time in the universe. And the way that those two correlate is if you had a particle of light traveling at the speed of light, which we know that light does, so that'd be the rate, and rate times time equals distance. So if you have a, say you took a particle of light, in 1 second, that particle of light will traverse the distance of 1 Planck length over 1 Planck unit of time. So if you think of, we have inches and feet as measuring space, and we have minutes and hours as measuring time. Well, these are equivalent. We can break it down into seconds and hours. We can break it down into feet, and scientists do that all the time. But if we just want to look at the pure unit of measurement, it's named after Max Planck, Planck, and he was a scientist that was able to find that. But you can calculate, if you were to do the math, you would see that, rate times time is the distance. So it's just all of physics uses Planck length and time as the base of how to work with time and space. Those are the measurements that science uses. So there's something about this fundamental building block of our reality. And when we take one unit and say it was a sphere inside of a cube, so the sphere, whether you're looking at a sphere or cube, it's going to have the same length and width. With the sphere, you would call it the diameter, but with the diameter of the sphere. But with the cube, you would look at the length, the width, and the height. And so now we start with that small building block of our reality. And then from there, you're going to have an outer layer that's going to nest the inner layer. And then that sphere cube shape is then going to be Planck times 1.618. 1.618 is the golden ratio. So first you have Planck, and then we have Planck times 1.618. And this is an outer layer. And you could consider this inner pixel being nested within the larger layer. And then from there, the next layer is going to be Planck times golden ratio, 1.618, raised to the power of 2. And that shows you where the next layer is. Now, why this is important is because there's sacred geometry, specific sacred geometry, which I can go over after. The sacred geometry structure that is dominant in our reality. At those layers, where there's another layer, represents a sacred geometric nodal meeting points, nodal intersections between sacred geometric objects, that these layers, you could consider it like another realm. And our whole reality, it expands out from the tiniest point, just layered nesting like Russian dolls. And the sacred geometry itself is nesting. Okay? So now the sacred geometry, so this is a tetrahedron here. I'm trying to hold it. It's kind of big, so I'm hold it so you can see it. It's a big tetrahedron. So we have tetrahedron. I'll just quickly go over this. Tetrahedron has 4 sides, all triangles. Cube has 6 sides, all squares. You have the octahedron, 8 sides, all triangles. You have the dodecahedron, 12 sides, all pentagons. Finally, the icosahedron, 20 sides, all triangles. These are the 5 platonic solids. Now, the dominant sacred geometry pattern of our reality is Dan Winner named the Star Mother sacred geometry. It's patterned like this. You have an octahedron in the middle, so the 8 sides, all triangles. Surrounding the octahedron is 2 tetrahedrons, which is also called a star tetrahedron or Merkaba. Around that, you have the cube. Around the cube, you have the dodecahedron, 12 sides, all pentagons. Around the dodecahedron, you have the icosahedron, 20 sides, all triangles. And then around that, you have another dodecahedron. And you can see this in the shape of the DNA. This dodecahedron, icosahedron, dodecahedron, the outer layer of the Star Mother sacred geometry, that is visible in the DNA. This is visible in the shape of the universe. This is visible in the Earth, shape of the Earth grid. These patterns are fractalic on the micro of the DNA, but then also on the macro of our literal universe. So it's this sort of a quantum braid of where when you go tiny, well, what's smaller than Planck, right? We have this as kind of an artificial limit we create for a universe, but there's got to be something smaller, right? So what happens when you go smaller? Is that, where do you go? And I just want to pose that question because it's a question I love to ask. And, I don't quite have an answer yet. But,
well,
just
this
like
is
time.
part of the podcast. This is part of the reason we're doing this, is that it's going to activate others that are doing the self-study, that have had these experiences, these extraterrestrial, metaphysical, beyond
Yes.
the super, the realms that we're able to hold witness to, because now we're having access to these realms because these technologies. Yes. And as
Absolutely.
an astrologer, we're looking at events like the eclipse.
Yeah.
And so these technologies with the luminaries of the sun and the moon and what's happening behind the scenes, a lot of us don't know. We just know that something mystical, magical, amazing happened.
Yes.
But then there's this remembrance that I would say the layperson is starting to remember their own technological gifts and looking for yourself and Dan Winter, and I would say Elasa Tiernan and the forerunners who are utilizing these technologies already, but then there's so many applications that can be gleaned. I mean, let's
Absolutely.
just take a moment to honor the fact that, the equation of gravity's been solved, and what are its implications? And
Yes.
so this is a clarion call to stations
Yep.
like this, where, the Robert Edward Grants of the world, who are these physicist polymaths that are starting to speak on the sacred geometric shapes and how it all interplays. And now they're talking about the relationship to the pyramids and what's happening in Egypt. So
Yep.
what I'm saying is that there's this collaboration connection now that where all the star seeds are meeting, right? And Robert Edward Grant, if you watch this, we know you're Arcturian, and I know I have Arcturian, and so I claim that. And so just knowing that we're all reconnecting and remembering, because it's time now. These technologies need to be released. They need to be utilized and harnessed. And so let's kind of transition here, because I want to really honor everybody's time. We get about 20 minutes left. Let's talk about the technologies that have already been created as far as the Verify unit.
Yep.
What that entails, and probably how to start utilizing it now, because that's what can only help humanity remember these gifts.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's a great idea. So Therapy is Dan Winter and Paul Harris are the inventors. You can go to therapy.net if you want to learn more about it, but it's basically two glass tubes, sealed glass tubes, that are generating plasma, and it's actually what's called a cold atmospheric plasma field, CAP. And you can research that term. There's a lot of research on cold atmospheric plasma. So that's how people can know the potential. It's one of the hottest areas of medical research at the moment. So basically, you have these tubes. They basically have a blend of noble gases within them, and there's a Tesla coil underneath the treatment table that takes the electricity from the wall, 110 volts, and creates 500,000 volts. It's pretty cool to see this Tesla coil. And then the Tesla coil is then connected to the wires that are connected to the sealed glass tubes, which have the noble gases within them. When that 500,000 volts goes through the copper that's connected to the glass tube, just by touching it, it then creates that cold atmospheric plasma field, which is a compression field. So this is basically, if you think of inflammation, the body is expanded, and we know that decreasing inflammation is major assistance to healing pretty much anything in the body. Then by creating this compression field that's going to have the opposite force of bringing things in together, and this is when you hear the word negative entropy or neg entropy, this is what physicists are talking about. It's the opposite of chaos. It's bringing things to order. It's collapsing things down to a pure state. And then anything that is not able to be compressed dissipates. We talk about this concept of being a shareable wave, because in our human technology, when we think of unconditional love and we think of, oh, I really love that person, we're literally generating what are called longitudinal waves from our heart. And so what the Therapy is doing is working with, so real quick, there's two types. So you have transverse electromagnetic field waves, and you have longitudinal electromagnetic field or EMF waves. Now transverse EMF waves go up and down. So you think of a boat on the ocean. As the wave passes the boat is going to go up and down. So this is showing the motion of the wave is this way, and the propagation of the wave, where the energy dissipates, is up and down. So transverse waves don't travel very far. Then you have something called a compression wave, and sound is an example of compression wave, where it's moving like this. The energy is it'd be like if people were standing in line and everyone started to push forward, everyone in the line, eventually the first person would feel moved. So compression wave, it moves across, it can actually move a lot faster. And a tsunami is another example of longitudinal wave, also known as compression wave, also known as a pump wave. These are all synonyms. So sometimes people get hung up, a little confused by the words, but the more you learn, the more you realize it's all describing the same thing. So we've got these two types of EMF waves. Transverse, where the propagation of the wave, the energy being emitted from the wave, goes perpendicular, up and down. And then when you have longitudinal wave, the direction of the wave, the energy propagation is going in the same direction as the wave direction. That's why they can travel such far distances without being dissipated. So now when we have, basically the Therapy is like a teaching tool for what's going on in our body, what's going on all around us. It's basically generating a plasma vortex that comes all the way down to Planck in the middle from two directions. So you've got two sources, two tubes. Where it meets in the middle is this plasma vortex thing. So, okay, let me slow down a little bit. The concept of a plasma vortex, picture a tornado, right? As energy moves down the tornado and it increases centripetal force. There's this gathering together, there's a storing up of energy, there's this compression, and now we have this phenomenon of plasma vortexes where transverse waves moving along like this, like on the ocean, get sucked down into that vortex, and they spiral down. And when those waves reach the bottom of the cone, the tip of the cone, which is Planck, the tiniest unit of measurement in our universe, when they come through the cone, they come out as longitudinal waves, pressure pump waves. So basically, you got the Therify creating this energy field, vortexing, and in both directions, where the energy is coming through that Planck point, it's coming out as it's going from transverse waves to longitudinal waves. So this is why the technology of the Therify is actually working with the energy of the whole Earth grid. And we've seen some phenomena that seem to happen right after one was turned on. I mean, Alaska's got a lot of stories about that. So that's one of the powerful technologies. I find just learning about the Therify, how it works, just tapping into the physics directly. We're tapping into how our reality works, and you don't necessarily need a device. I think we like, you and I, Ella, we like to talk about how the human body is the real technology, right?
Yes.
So, and these are training tools, because once you tap into that part of yourself, you know, by using it or trying it or just learning how it works, we can, you know, because our vision, what we look at, for example, or what we think about in our mind, that is the tip of a plasma vortex that then generates the longitudinal waves, which project our reality out in front of us. So that's why it's really important, and back to the concept of war and violence, what are we focusing our consciousness on? Because what we feed our consciousness, what we think about, what we talk about, what we watch on TV, you know, any of these video sources of information, it's what we're programming our consciousness on. So knowing that, yeah, if you're thinking about that stuff a lot, you're going to see it in the world. And then maybe to a certain degree, you're going to then people will assist to generate it if that's what they're choosing to do in this free world. If we focus on solutions like no-till farming, growing our own food, solutions like creating abundance, because the clothes we want to wear, embedding copper to assist the life force, utilizing things like organic cotton, organic linen, organic hemp, organic bamboo, organic mushrooms, working with the mushroom fabric, like you're, you know, ushering in this vision of the mushroom fabric, mushroom clothes, embedding copper, embedding precious metals like silver and gold, so that when you wear it, it's using the science of the Planck fire formula to know that the life force is coming through the clothing, reaching my body. It's coming through the buildings and reaching my body. At this point, I feel like the name of the game is, how do we enhance our life force? Because this is what causes seeds to sprout. This is what nourishes children to grow. So clearly adults need it too. And we're the ones, you know, in charge of it right now. Are we going to be good stewards for the children coming up? Are we going to help, you know, by facilitating our life force, we live longer, we feel better, we enjoy every moment, we move into the now time, which is essentially being out of time, using time as a tool, purely as conscious creators. So it's an exciting time to be alive. There's incredible, beyond the Therify, you know, that's $30,000 plus, you know, investment. There's a smaller unit, Quantify. Now, I'll briefly go over the difference. So this Planck fire formula that Dan found, that is basically Planck times golden ratio raised to any integer. So we put different integers in, we get a different frequency. What the Therify is doing is it's emitting a cascade of frequencies calculated with this formula. So they're perfected golden ratio tuned to Planck frequencies, which enhance life force. Now, the Earth's Schumann resonance is very close. The Schumann cascade, again, a cascade of frequencies, an array of frequencies, a group of numbers, if we want to really simplify it, our language, so make sure people, what's an array, what's, you know, just a group of numbers. So the Therify is perfected to the Planck fire formula, golden ratio, tuned to golden ratio in Planck. Now, Earth's Schumann resonance is slightly different from, I think it's, if you use the Planck fire formula, the frequency is around 7.2, but Earth is 7.8. That's one of the Schumann frequencies. Now, the Quantify is kind of like a little younger sibling to the Therify. That is under $10,000. Then practitioners can choose which exact frequencies they want to work with. A practitioner might prefer to mimic the Earth frequencies, to mimic the Schumann resonance exactly. And so it's not better or worse, it's just different protocols. There's all these right frequencies where people have identified a frequency that will be very effective at treating a very specific condition. So that's when the Quantify, which is actually a lot less known, really. There's way
Well, isn't it too, just really quickly,
yeah.
don't all all diseases operate on frequencies?
So disease is, if you look at the body, and terrain theory is coming online now, where we find out that the inventor of germ theory on his deathbed admitted terrain theory was the proper theory. And when you look at terrain theory, you look at the cell, and if the cell becomes inflamed, it becomes spherical. And Dan will refer to this as failure to embed, because if a cell's a sphere, it doesn't have touch with the other cells when they become spherical, and cancer cells are spherical. They can't touch. They can't embed with one another. So in terrain theory talks about that the cell becomes too full of water, the cell walls become too impermeable, and that's when energies can come in that we might not want, right? And then humans can become hosts to energetic beings that have become parasitic, and they feed off of human life. But it's by knowing it and utilizing that awareness as empowering and neutralizing it and saying, well, how do I learn this? How do I take that knowledge and now upgrade my experience by cutting off any of that of where it needs to be cut off?
Well, and then changing the frequencies also changes the shape of the cell, which wouldn't allow that.
It's basically like when we're utilizing frequency, working on the cellular level, it's helping the cell remember, it's helping remind the cell of its divine blueprint. What does that look like? The cells want to go back to their divine blueprint. So, when we have conditions like inflammation, okay, there was some kind of toxicity here, there's some kind of radiation, the cell got twisted up, it's, shape, okay, the cell can reverse it. And there is literally a physics concept, because we're talking about the cells. Well, the cells are made up of molecules and atoms fundamentally. What's going on the atomic level in that cell? Well, just like on the cellular level, the cell remembers the damage and it wants to unwind it and go back to its pure natural state. Or if that cell can't do it, then for that cell to die and a new perfected one to be reborn. How can we facilitate this process? So then if you look what's going on the electrical field level of protons and neutrons, okay? So wanting charge to smoothly compress. And when charge can smoothly compress without losing information, it can expand out and compress. We know that's a shareable wave, just like unconditional love. And when we think positive thoughts about others, they receive that. That's an expression of love. That's reaching them. We're generating longitudinal waves ourselves that are faster than the speed of light. It's quantum entanglement. Part of what this formula does is by understanding how everything is fractalic, and it's fractalic, golden ratio fractalic. And the reason why golden ratio works so perfectly is that you have this adding and multiplying of wave velocities. So it's basically the waves can come together and all the information is kept. Nothing is lost. This is something called, you have constructive wave interference and you have destructive wave interference. Destructive would be two waves canceling each other out. Anger is an example of something that gets canceled out. It doesn't travel very far. It's not a shareable wave, so it dissipates. Can't travel through death. And because this Planck-Fire formula is not only the solution to gravity, but it's also the solution to consciousness. Consciousness is a plasma vortex. And we want to be able to smoothly transition out of our vessel when the time is appropriate through death. And many of us, waking up to abilities such as lucid dreaming and astral travel, are realizing we're going out of our body every night by being a shareable wave, being able to plasma vortex our soul through the Planck point of whether it's the pineal gland or the crown chakra, I'm not really sure. So maybe someone else will know. But basically be able to compress and go through Planck by being a shareable wave. We're loving, unconditionally loving enough. We're not afraid of that because it's a certain amount of openness that's required. So I feel like we're helping others embracing the love vibration, as some people say, or, recognizing all is self. So how can I take this, whatever challenge, whatever person is, I feel like, we're coming up against each other. Okay, well, they are me. So what am I trying to tell myself? Why am I writing this story with this person? There's something here I want to learn as consciousness.
Yeah.
Just bring it all back in. And when we're willing to open ourselves up to that process and be real and raw with our own selves, and vulnerable and open up, and where I feel scared to open up, right? And then I probably really need to open that up.
Well, that's the medicine, and I love the implications of the technologies that are coming online that really, because at the end of the day, just in my own travels and gnosis as a human being, is when you feel better, you think better thoughts, you have better actions, you're just a better human being altogether. So really, at the end of the day, I know there's a lot of science speak, and I know there's a lot of language involved in this, but really where this conversation has captivated me and wants to be expressed through this channel is that there is this merger of science and spirituality. And it's definitely astrologically based. It's definitely based on numbers and geometry. It's all connected. So now, after especially this portal eclipse energy, and we spoke on this too, we can really feel this coming, this information, this intel coming online coherently.
Yes.
And so just, where do we go from here now? So now these technologies are being released. Where do you see the implications of these technologies and how they're going to help humanity moving forward? I know a little bit of our conversation, we talked about, regridding the house. So keeping the copper wires like a certain, because if you're in these frequencies always, even when you're sleeping, when you're eating, you're just being in this longitudinal wave, right? On the constant. What does that do for the body and humanity in general as that starts being the dominant way of living?
Absolutely. So basically, I consider these, if people have certain health conditions, they may really want to target, by working with the technology and placing where there's an injury, where there's an area of the body that needs some love, in that point of implosion between the two plasma cones of the therapy. But ultimately, so there's a lot of incredible anecdotal results of people having tremendous success. But for those of us who are just focused on general wellness, preventative wellness, and we just want to fix things in our body before we even know it's an issue, I feel that it trains the body, mind, and spirit to naturally access that Planck point of precision, the cone, the tip of the vortex, the plasma vortexes. Because we have one vortex coming in to Planck, it vortexes out the same, strength that it came in. That's why we want our soul, our consciousness, we want the plasma to be able to strongly vortex in. So I feel these technologies like Therify, Quantify, this new piezo fire that we're getting ready to play with, it's really creating a field where that implosion, that implosive force, that compression field, negative entropy. My experience has been my life. These same principles of getting my life in order because I can think more clearly. I have that ability to focus my concentration, the tip of the plasma vortex at Planck, to know that where I steer that, where I put my focus and my energy and my consciousness, that is what will create the reality that I'm steering. So what reality do I want to create? And being really clear about that with our words, with our thoughts, with the language, going into a meditative state where everything is just just close your eyes and just at least cutting off the field of vision, ideally in a quiet space, and then seeing yourself in what does the landscape look like? Are you holding maybe a warm cup of coffee, enjoying a certain view? What are your plans for that day? I'm not the first. Plenty of people talk about this type of thing of visualizations. Going into that 0 point layer of everything being one layer of consciousness, and then seeing with our mind's eye what is the trajectory, because there is, if you learn about teleportation technology, which is very real, and there's people that have given the physics formula how to build it online, when you start learning about that, it's really just taking this basic concept of how we operate, of being in what's like a sphere of our consciousness, of our awareness, in this individuated consciousness, which is part of the whole. And we see this reality, and it's like frames in a movie. If we had a camera that could go slow enough, if we had a camera that could go down to faster than 1 Planck frame, per second, if the shutter could move faster, it would probably need to move faster than the speed of light, I suppose. Anyway, if you had a fast enough camera, we could literally take a picture and see. We took 2 pictures fast enough, you say, oh, they're exactly the same. It's the same frame. So it's all these frames of reality being stitched together. So we envision, okay, what's the frame I want to see myself in? as a snapshot and really feeling how good that feels. And I'm so looking forward to this. So exciting. I'm going to be there doing this thing. My life's like this. The more we power that battery, life will fill in the blanks. We'll be guided of what we need to do, where we need to go. We follow our heart because we've already set the vision of where we're trying to achieve. And we continue that. We continue to have, going to France in September is a visions gathering happening in September. If people want to check that out, it's fractalfield.com/2024. Because I think it's this limited space for sure. But,
Well, that was going to be my next question, Hannah, is that, to make these tools accessible for those that don't have $30,000 to spend on the Therify, what are the alternatives? And then how can people access this real time if they're interested, they want to start working with these technologies?
For
how
sure.
can they access those tools that are more price affordable?
Absolutely.
As well as the Therify for maybe, I'm envisioning, we talked about like wellness centers housing these technologies, and how many are in play right now? How many of these Therifys are working?
That's a really good question, actually. And now I want to find out that number. We just got one set up in Maine. So that's now the highest node in the country, in America, nodal point. If you want to look at, like, we're gridding the whole planet with this technology. People can go to therify.net to learn directly from Dan of this technology. Dan Winter has a YouTube video, or YouTube channel, where you can find a lot of information. The Quantify is more affordable than Therify, under 10,000. You can buy that through, I believe, the Therify website. There's this piezo fire that's brand new. Just got it yesterday, actually, here. So I have yet to really play with. I have tried it in the past. I know it's effective. That is a much more affordable. It's under 1,000. People can also reach out. I'm in this expert. I'm gaining this expertise and becoming an expert at this technology. People like Alasa and I, and and yourself too, maybe Ella, in the near future, because we're willing to guide people and really hold their hand through the setup. The Therify is a delicate, detailed setup. We are also bridges where people, if they wanted to really be handheld and guided, then they can reach out directly to, any you or I or Alasa. People can go to the R3 Miracle Center in Palm Harbor to try for free for 15 minutes. Alasa's got one there. And, I'm seeing, I wanted an event where people got to experience it and try it. I'm more focused on just getting awareness of the technology out there, and then people can do their own. But I am happy to guide if someone wants to purchase it through me, then I can help really hold their hand with the setup. I just helped my mom do it for one in Maine, which is private for now, but hopefully will start to open up to the public.
And I'm excited too, Hannah, as a practitioner of astrology, because I'm also going to be working at R3 Miracles every Tuesday. And this is also part of my training, is because I get to use the technology myself, see how it feels. It's like creating my own testimonial, and then pairing it with astrology, which is just a tool, just like the Akashic records or any other wellness tool, Reiki, or any kind of healing modality. It's what I'm seeing is like, okay, getting a chart session, seeing what the story is that's surrounding that ship, wherever that body is not the part of the body that you speak, and I can't even speak the language yet, but you know what I'm saying, where it's out of balance. And then what's the story astrologically that's being told, and then that way when they go into the technology, the equipment, they can have that story and visualize, okay, what needs to be moved, and help them through knowing what these where these analogies stem from, what lifetime, what reality, what dimension, however you want to. So I really encourage practitioners as a way for continuing education, that this is another healing modality that's like the layering effect that can help practitioners,
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to just giving sessions for people to start developing protocols, like for something like the piezo fire, because it's mobile. And
so can you talk a little bit more about the piezo fire and what that is, and the technology, and then we'll because I was really on at the time, and then
we're pretty much out of time. But
then we'll definitely give all the viewers the information on how to reach Hannah, how to get this technology. We'll definitely put that at the end of the show.
Yeah, for sure.
Can you talk about more about that piezo fire?
Yeah, so it works. So Dan Winter and Patrick Bodie developed an app, 2 apps actually, called Flame in Mind and Flame in Sound, and you can find them on the Apple App Store. Flame and Sound, either one will work with the piezo fire. Flame and Sound is only about $15 or $16. Flame in Mind is about $200. But just with this $15 app, you buy the piezo fire, just again, it's under $1,000. And I had a dream. I precogged it, as you would say, Ella. I had a precognition awareness, because I dreamt about a device that was small enough to carry around, but it did everything the Theraphyte did. And that was shortly before I found out that they were about to launch this piezo fire, P-I-E-Z-O-P-H-I-R-E. And now there's 2 different discs. There's 2 sets. It comes with 2. So one has copper coils inside the discs. The other set has shungite lenses inside the discs. And now you plug it into your iPhone or your iPad that has the Flame and Sound app or the Flame and Mind app, which that you can use to measure brain waves with a different device called the Muse. So, but just with this $15 app, you can generate different frequencies, and the app will have a map of the body. Is it your foot? Which part of the body specifically that you're going to hold those discs, and then you just play the frequency, and it will be emanating that frequency through either the copper coils or the shungite lenses. You just hold it over the body for a very short period of time. When I did it, it was very fast. I had it on my toe that had stubbed. After the swelling went down noticeably, I could tell it was activating my meridian, because I felt this sharp pain in my toe. That's when I knew that, okay, the treatment's done. It was like, ooh, ow. But in a good way, because then shortly after I had the same, just like a sharp pointed feeling in my knee. So it showed me it really was activating the whole meridian. But there's numerous ways they can be used. This is just the very beginning. So for people that are wanting to be the explorers of learning how to utilize this technology, this is the point that we're at. And I think, Ella, you and I will, in the next, maybe couple months or whatnot, have some awesome videos to share that technology, show it in action, and also be able to, by then, have actual testimonies, true testimonials from people, word of mouth, anecdotal testimonials. So that's something to help get people get excited about. This is brand new. You could join with us and buy it from Dan and be someone that's really wanting to map it out and track protocols and what works, because this is experimental technology at this point. All of these devices are preclinical trial. I'm hoping to work with investors in the future and be involved in research and investment and collaboration, bringing these incredible inventors together to work on real world technology like creating gravity waves so we can have vehicles that fly. And that also unlocks 0-point energy. People call free energy, more accurately 0-point energy. If we can create gravity waves, we can, just really open a bright future for all humanity. And so
this is why we chose this time and space. I mean, for those that have done their work really to get to these states of consciousness, who are ready to be receptive to, is this possible, right? Like, I'm excited. Everything to me, I see it like life is an experiment anyway, and I'm here to experience certain things. So having access to this type of technologies, and again, check out, I'll put the post on R3 Miracles here in Palm Harbor. It's a wellness center. It's a retreat space. Going to be utilizing these technologies more consistently within the community. Perhaps if our elderly, or we have a lot of nursing homes here in the Florida community, just really opening up this technology for perhaps veterans and just the really tender parts of our society that can really use this. And then start getting, real world results and, what's it when you get testimonials about what this is, right? So supporting this new is where we're at right now. This is a very grassroots taking. This is all about the getting off of the main system, getting more decentralized in our own healthcare. And again, we're not doctors. This is not, please do your own research, but from our own research and what we're seeing that's working, that's helping people, it's supporting these new inventors, technology way showers that have been on the scene already for years, that's ready now to collaborate, to get the funding together. And it's time for us to rise up together as a community. It's really what this is about. And I'm so excited. I'm telling you, with this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, it really activated this level of cohesion, and that we got together and got to have this amazing, epic, retreat journey. I feel like more and more of us are doing this online in a bigger way.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the way that, you and I collaborating on projects and projects shifting in big, amazing ways. And the eclipse for me really marked, it was just a noticeable shift moving into that, coming up to it, felt like I was processing a lot, but then it's been really smooth sailing ever since that eclipse for me personally. It's just been being here present now in the flow, loving life, being part of things that are really exciting. And just anyone that wants to, learn more about this, I have a YouTube channel where I take concepts that Dan Winter on his YouTube channel is an incredible host of information for everyone that wants to go directly to the source. And he's got lots of great speakers, but I created a YouTube channel because I studied those concepts, looked up the terms, did the work to learn what they meant. And then he might move pretty quickly using these terms people don't know. So I slow down and I'll go over what is phase conjugation, what is transverse wave versus longitudinal wave, what is heterodyning, how do we get the golden ratio from Fibonacci. I try to really go slow, so that is what that YouTube channel is there for. I'm also writing a book to put it in language a child could understand. And I know, Ella, you and I, that's one of the things we're excited about, is creating these teaching resources. But also, too, just to note, it's like everything is consciousness, and these planets are conscious beings. And I love this kind of science of what happens when you're in the middle of two powerful conscious beings and their energy is flowing to one another, right? And they're having these interactions as consciousness. So really honing in the fact that the planet, it has its own individual consciousness. The microbes in our body have their own individual consciousness. The table, everything is just pure consciousness. And really, so I've been really enjoying learning from you of all these incredible insights. Just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Well, it's been a journey, and I'm so grateful to be on this with you. And again, for anybody that's a vibrational match to this channel, thank you for watching. And if you found any value, please like, subscribe, share this channel, share Hannah's work. We're going to put all the links below on the bottom, and you can just check out everything that's the new technologies. Again, this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Taurus about the body, these healing codes, these technologies are being released. It's time. We are the change you've been waiting for, and I am so grateful. Star seeds, beings of light, you're not crazy. You know this is here. We are the ones we've been waiting for. So now we're done waiting. It's time to connect. So thank you again, Hannah, so much. I am so grateful for just co-creating this life with you.
Yes.
And being on this journey with you. What a gift.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I'm
Truly.
just so grateful. Yeah, and we can all just really step into the present moment, enjoy the now, because it's all that's ever real. Stay in the moment, love all of it. Whatever seems like a dark, scary thing, it is self, so just love it. And then the illusion of separation falls down. We just embrace where we're at as gifts stories we're writing ourselves to receive the gifts of knowledge, of learning about ourselves as this infinite source creation, self-pretending to create these illusions for fun. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And thank you everybody for joining, for watching, for connecting. Yes. And again, if you found any value, please send this to your friends, your families, those who are waking up, that are starting to get these conscious connections. Like, subscribe, it's free for you. It helps the channel, it helps me, it helps this content. We got to get this out there, guys. We're the change we're waiting for. So thank you for being on this journey with us. So much gratitude, so much love. Thank you, Hannah, and thank you, everybody. Much love.
Much love.